Am I live? Am I live for the most part? Because I pressed it, but it's not loaded. There we go. Welcome back to Cubfidential on another night of this beautiful, beautiful episode. So here we got my guy Denzel Snipes. It's Tariq Richardson, intern at Sideline Sports. We got JC, Denzel Snipes. We got Boykins, and we got my guy JB Ellis. And we have a special guest that is coming on this show. I'm not gonna tell you guys if for the most part he is coming. You guys gonna like him. He's from the Motor City. You guys would like him. Anyway, I'm gonna bring up my guy JB Ellis on here.
Hey, what's going on, Tariq? How you doing? Okay, I guess Tariq dropped off. So let's talk about what we got going on tonight. We got a legendary journalist from the Detroit area, George Icorn, who's going to be joining us in just a second. And then we're going to get our regulars, Bodkins and Mr. Ubbs, Jacob Christner on here. We're going to talk some Cubs baseball. Good week for the Cubs. Let's start off right away with our special guest, George. George, how you doing?
Hey, good, JB. Happy to be with you tonight.
So, I mean, the Cubs went up to Detroit to, what is it, Comerica Park now they call it?
Yep, Comerica Park, 3-game series.
They change names of these parks so often, but beautiful park up there at Comerica. I know there was a little bit of rain today. The game was delayed. The Cubs pulled it out, though. Tough series. The Tigers are improving. They're getting better. A lot of young talent. Torkelson is really playing well. Had a nice series. I mean, what did you take out of the series between the Cubs and Tigers?
Yeah, JB, actually, it goes back a few series even further than that, where the kids, Spencer Torkelson and Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green, the new future, if you will, the Tigers' hope of the middle of their lineup. It was a great series. It really was. I mean, both teams battled strong. The Cubs put up just as much fight, obviously winning 2 out of the 3 than Detroit. But that being said, the Tigers have nothing to be ashamed of, really. I mean, the Cubs are a better team, obviously more experienced than the Tigers are. But like I said earlier, and like you said, yeah, fans are pretty excited here about Torkelson and some of the young guys that they got on the squad.
Yeah, I mean, Torkelson came up, a year into his career. He basically made the pro team, and he was a highly touted number 1 pick, and he's living up to the hype.
Yeah, you're right. He was probably, I think, rushed a year early in an ideal world, but it's not an ideal world, as we know, with the Detroit Tigers reeling, obviously, since Al Avila unfortunately took them down the wrong road for many, many years, the general manager, and now they're on a better track with Scott Harris as the president of baseball ops. That being said, he hit some down points, Spencer Torkelson, last year. Obviously, this year he seems much more confident. He's confident hitting the ball. He's confident at first base. He's shown some improvement. I still think he's making a few too many errors at first base. He's got 8 or 9 this year, but he's still a kid, still growing, still learning, and certainly the power he's displayed has been unreal lately.
I think the biggest issue that I noticed from the series, and it's an old problem that the Tigers have had since they've been in this decline, is the pitching. Skubal today was awful. I know he took a liner off the hip. Hopefully he's okay, because nobody ever wants to see him get hurt. But he just wasn't good.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they're really showing they're showing the wears on the pitching staff, and I'm not trying to say that the starters are all that much better than the relief pitchers, but they have had a pretty decent bullpen this year. So not only Skubal, but the relief pitchers, obviously, that came in today did not do as good a job. But again, a lot of these guys are real young. Some of them are not going to be back next year. Some of the veterans, I think, in the bullpen that had only 1-year deals might not be back. But starting pitching is a concern. I'm not going to kid you at all, JB. By now you would have hoped that Matt Manning and Scrubel and Spencer Turnbull, would be leading that pitching staff, but that hasn't happened due to many, many injuries that they've suffered. It's just a shame that had to go that way. Of course, they did have Lorenzen, as you know, and he was dealt before the deadline and went on to pitch a no-hitter. And, of course, they still got Eduardo Rodriguez, as you guys know, as you know, too. He vetoed that trade that would have sent him to the Dodgers. So they do have a couple of veterans in the pitching core, but, yeah, their starters have to get better for them to be even mildly contending next year.
So what's the long-term outlook? Like the Cubs, I always looked at were 2 or 3 years away from being serious contenders. What's the outlook with the Tigers right now?
Well, see, they made a fatal mistake a year or so ago when they announced in spring training that we're ready to contend. And that, again, was under the old GM Al Avila, who took over for Dombrowski. They really don't want to talk about it. They really do not want to say anything about a timetable. But one has to believe that if these guys continue to hit like they can, if they can find some, obviously Baez has not been the answer at shortstop. We didn't even talk about that, but he has not been the answer, and they still got a lot of holes in that starting lineup. So I would say they're at least another 2-3 years away. I mean, there's a chance. The division is so weak, as you know, with Minnesota, Cleveland, and Detroit, Kansas City, Chicago White Sox. I mean, anything can happen, but realistically, I think they're probably a couple of years away from trying to be contenders in their division.
Now, I mean, I know you guys, like we were talking about Torkelson coming up too early. Who's the next prospect that the Tigers have that we haven't seen yet?
Well, Parker Meadows just joined the team for this series. Parker is the younger brother of Austin Meadows, who, as you know, is still on. Unfortunately, he's still on the disabled list, or getting through some emotional problems that he's been plagued with. So Parker Meadows was brought up, and they got a kid named Colt Keith, and he is really, really on the radar for being brought up later on. If not in September, then he might make the squad next spring. They've also got some other pitchers that they're looking at, and of course, in the catching department, I think it's Dingler from Ohio State University. Yeah. He's their catcher of the future. He is going to be a good part of that team also.
Looks like they have a lot of good things to look forward to. I always liked when the Tigers were a good team. I know you've been through some tough times recently, but hopefully they can turn it around. George, tell us about your book and how people can reach you.
Oh, thanks, JB. Yeah, I wrote a book several years ago called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. I got a chance to interview Ernie Harwell and Paul Carey, Ray Lane. George Kell is in the book, Al Kaline. This is a story, really a photo story through the past 50-plus years of broadcasting in Detroit. And it's a book that's available for purchase. You can go to Amazon.com, or I also write for the South Florida Tribune. And my column appears under the Motor City Tribune with Scott Morgenroth's online newspaper. And there's a link to purchase my book at the end of my column if you subscribe to the South Florida Tribune and then drill down to the Motor City Tribune. But yeah, it's a great read. It's easy read, and it's got a lot of great pictures in there. I'm talking about Hank Aaron's in the book, Ted Williams is in the book, because what I wanted to do on this, JB, is not just have the broadcasters' photos. I wanted to get those broadcasters in action. And so they're interviewing, Tommy Hearns, and Manuel Stewart is in the book, and Dan Deerdorf. And I mean, there's a lot of great pictures. All that being said, I appreciate the opportunity to share that with your listeners and your viewers.
Well, we definitely appreciate you taking the time, George. I know it's kind of late in Detroit right now. We're getting an hour on you, but thanks for taking the time to come on, and we appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you, JB. Always a pleasure to be with you too.
Have a great night.
You too.
All right. So next up, we got our guy Botkins coming on. Now, it's been a few weeks since we've seen him, but you're going to love this guy's energy if you haven't seen it yet. If you've seen it yet, get ready because he's coming on now.
We're back, baby. I'm back. The Cubs are back. I mean, look at us. We're right here. I'm praying every night that our pitching staff can hold. It's just I watch the games like this with pitching because, man, outside of Steele, I don't really trust anybody that's on the mound. But gosh dang, can we hit, baby? And we are hitting. We're coming back. It seems like every night we're never out of a game. Doesn't matter if we're down 3 runs, 4 runs. It seems like some way, somehow our lineup finds a way. And, man, the cardiac Cubs just keep it done. And I'm back. The Cubs are back. And, man, let's just keep our fingers crossed, JB, and maybe we'll be talking into late September and early October.
I definitely agree. Let's talk a little bit about the series with the crosstown, I don't want to call them rivals.
Those other guys who might be moving, right? They might be moving out of Chicago. Maybe they're not even on crosstown in a couple of years.
Yeah, those guys, with the horrible stadium that I actually got to see. Not a fan. Let's talk about the series. So the Cubs lose game 1 of the 2-game series. What'd you see in game 1 of that series?
I mean, it was just the same old. It's just, man, you know these games. It doesn't matter, like, where we are in the standings, right? I always feel like the White Sox, Cubs, or even Cubs Cards, those games, like, the whole series is intense. And the fact that it's only a 2-game series, you as a Cub fan, we're thinking, man, they're supposed to be pretty bad. But, they're going to get up for us. They're going to play well, and they did. Unfortunately, dropped that game 5-3. Just didn't have the heroics that we needed, but man, didn't we have it in game 2? Christopher Morale comes up big and we win that game, right? That was the game that he hit the walk-off in game 2, if I'm not mistaken.
So that happened about 10 minutes after we were off the air last night. We were off the air. I went in the other room to, watch the game, and Morale is up, and I'm like, he could win the game. Sure enough. And what a display of emotion. I don't know if you got to see that.
I did, yeah. I mean, it reminded me of the emotion that he has. Remember David Bodie, the Sunday night game against the Nationals, where he hit the grand slam, walk-off grand slam. That's like the emotion that Morale had. And Morale's such a young kid. He's running around the bases. He's taking his jersey off. I love the kid. He brings a lot of enthusiasm. I kind of wish Rossi would play him a little bit more. But man, he seems to come up in big spots at times. And we win game 2 and split the series. You kind of said we got to win these series. You almost got to sweep them. You want to sweep, just like the Royals we're getting ready to talk about here in just a second. But we split, and but that's those like last games. Like there's been 3 or 4 of them this season where you're just like, man, what if we would have lost to the White Sox, dropped 2? Like, what does that do to the morale? What's that do? But like somehow, some way, we just battle. Couple, Tauchman's robbing of the Cardinals a couple weeks ago, almost a month ago now, saved our season, right? The Cubs are thinking about trading everybody again. We take 3 or 4 from the Cardinals again because Tauchman's game-saving catch. Like, that's kind of how this morale home run was in game 2. Like, smokes the ball, the jubilation. Like, man, these kids are loving it. We're buying in. It's just like, we're not supposed to be here. But by God, we're freaking here, baby.
No, you say it right. I say it all the time. You got to win 2 out of 3 games in the series that you're better than the teams. And if you're playing a team like the Dodgers, or Milwaukee,
the Braves.
The Braves, you got to win 1 out of 3.
Don't get swept. Yeah, a couple weeks ago we were playing the Braves. It was actually when we played 2 out of 3 against the Braves. And right. I have Jonathan Grisham, shout out. He's on LTS quite often, and I said, he was messaging me. I said, as long as we don't get swept, I don't care. Like, I just don't get swept. And we ended up taking 2 out of 3 from them. So, but yeah, exactly. We took split the series with the White Sox, but and then we had the Royals.
Yeah, so let's get to the Royals. So Kansas City comes in, and of course they win 2 out of 3 again. Steele wins his 14th game. the year. They game 2, 6-4. So what did you take out of that series?
I mean, the last, you mentioned the game 2, Steele got the win. Again, it was just a battling, just like these close games. It's even like every time Albert Alzolay, he makes every save interesting, right? It's never like 1, 2, 3. I feel like every game seems to be a nail biter. It doesn't matter who it is. Game 3, I was just actually kind of brushing up on my notes here. Kyle Hendricks got the win. It was his first win since like June or something like that. Is that what I was reading? Yeah. It's like his first win since he hadn't won a game. Yeah, it's July 25th. So it'd been a while since Kyle got the win there and got the win against the Royals. Again, like you said, those are teams we got to beat. We had big home runs in that series from Alizé, Suzuki. It just seems like every night this lineup's got somebody that's doing it. I know Cody Bellinger is like the leader of the clubhouse, right? Like he's kind of the catalyst that's really kind of, since he's been back off the IL, he's been leading this team. But man, it seems like every night, whether it's Amaya, it's Suzuki, it's Morale, somebody's coming up big and punching it in and getting these runs. I mean, we can score. And that's one thing that we're averaging like 5 runs a game. You look at even like these last these series that we're talking about, right? We scored 4 against the White Sox in game 2. Then we scored 6 against the Royals again, 4 against the Royals again. Then you'll even look at today and yesterday against the Tigers, right? 7, 8, 6, and 6. Like we're scoring 5 runs a game. Like that's a pitcher's dream, JB. That's a pitcher's freaking dream. A team that can score 5 to 6 runs a game.
Wish.
Like
you imagine if you had Greg Maddux right now in a Cubs uniform. How many games would he win?
Yes, exactly. Imagine if we just had just decent guys that were, after Steele. You know what I mean? Like I know Stroman's on the IL, and you just hope that maybe he's not out for the year. I know that's going to be later on. You guys are going to talk about that, but man, if he could come back and get back to that, all pre-London Stroman, then you feel great going into a playoff series where at least like, hey, we got 2 guys, and then just cross our fingers for the rest of the guys. I mean, Drew Smiley's got to get out of the rotation. It seems like Assad's been pitching pretty decent since he's been entered into the rotation. So we'll see what happens. But man, I'm excited for the lineup. I believe we're in every game because this team just finds different ways to score runs. But man, when our pitchers are pitching, I got to watch the games like this because it's nerve-wracking.
So right now, 3.5 games back. It's getting towards the end of August. 6 left to go against the Brewers. What's your honest opinion? Wild card, winning the division, or not making the playoffs?
So, man, I don't think we're winning the division. I just don't. Something just tells me, and I've been pessimistic, and I'm optimistic / pessimistic. I'm just happy we're here. Can I just be happy? I'm just happy. 2 months ago, I thought the season was over. A month ago, probably. I'm just happy we're here. What do we ask? I just asked beginning of the season, just play meaningful games in the month of September. Whatever happens, happens. I mean, the wild card is stacked. I mean, there's like 5 teams, within one game. There's the Diamondbacks right there. They're a really good team. The Reds, I'm not sold on them. I think we could beat out the Reds. The Phillies are right there, right? So, like, these teams, like, I feel like, let me look at the standings real quick. I feel like I'm missing a team. There's the Giants, right? Like, they got a good team. So there's all these teams that are right there that's just like, man, can we contend? I believe in our lineup top to bottom, but I don't believe in our pitching staff. And I like Alizé as our closer. Maybe we got one finally. But man, he reminds me of Joe Borowski back in the day, where Joe Bro was just this guy who would get saves, but man, he made it very interesting. Yeah, Miami's right there, 1.5 back as well. So I knew I was missing a team there. So, we'll see. We're in the second spot, half game up. There's 3 wild card spots now, but it's real crammed. I mean, the margin of error is very little. So we just got to continue to win 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3. I do like our schedule kind of going forward as far as, who we got. We just beat the Tigers. We got the Pirates coming up, the Brewers we just talked about off air. That's a tough series. Then we got the Reds, and then we got the Giants and Diamondbacks. So, like, those series right there is going to decide. The next 2 weeks is going to decide whether or not we make the playoffs.
Yeah, if you look at the standings right now, Philly's up 3 games on the wild card. The Cubs are in second, a half a game up on Arizona, Cincinnati, and San Francisco. They're all basically tied for the 3rd spot. And the Marlins are a game and a half back of that. And San Diego, who's got a lot of talent, is only 5.5 back, which that's pretty far, but you never know.
And they might be San Diego, in all purposes, maybe the most disappointing team in all of baseball.
Oh, without a doubt. Definitely.
All the money they spent. You can say what you want about the Yankees or the Cardinals, but they didn't go out and spend all the money that, the Padres did.
No, the Padres were built to win now. The Yankees are always going to spend money, and the Cardinals the same thing. But the Padres went out and brought in pieces to win, and they've just been horrible.
Yeah. So, these next 2 or 3, ask me this question in about 2 weeks, and I'll be able to have a more clarification. That's the great thing is we do control our destiny because we do have 4 game set here with the Reds coming up the first week of September. Then right after that, you got a 3-game set with the Giants and then the Diamondbacks. So, and then you have the Rockies, then the Diamondbacks again. So, like, you win those series, you're in.
I'm going to say it. They're going to win the division. I don't feel that Milwaukee is going to hold on. Looking at the way that they've played over the last couple of weeks, the Cubs are on. As long as Ross doesn't do Ross, they got the division.
I hope you're right.
That scares me. I don't think they're going to go far in the playoffs, but this bodes well for next year and the year after. Because you look at how teams usually go with playoff runs. You have the first year where you get there, and then after that, you have a chance to actually win it all.
Let me ask you this real quick. If they made it to the NLCS, is that more surprising to you than when they made the NLCS in 2015? Because I tell people all the year, I love 2016 because we won the World Series, but I enjoyed 2015 more because we weren't supposed to be there. And we got to that run that we had was so in 2015 was spectacular.
See, to me, this year would be a little bit more enjoyable because all these young kids, they shouldn't even be a 500 team. They should be towards the bottom of the division. This is great to see. So, I just hope it continues.
I feel like this is the first time that they finally got I know you guys aren't high on Rossi, and I've been in and out on him as well. But as far as pipeline, right? They finally have developed people. You even look at all those guys in 2016. Where are they at now?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Hindsight, we're glad we traded them. Imagine if we would have signed those guys to extensions and their numbers now.
Exactly. Listen, you got to like what's been done certain ways. You might not have liked it when it happened, but got to let things play out. We get paid to talk about what's happening right away, so we may not always agree with it, but that's the way it shakes out. But it's very reminiscent of the Yankees of the mid-'90s. It's very similar. When I had a chance to talk to with Tom Ricketts when we were at the Hall of Fame, I said it's very similar. 95, the Yankees made the wild card, lost that horrible series against Seattle. What'd they do? They won how many World Series? 3 in 5 years? They were phenomenal.
They went on 3-peat, right? 98. They won 98, 99, 2000, I think, and then lost in 01.
They won 96, lost 97, so I think 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And it was basically very similar. They brought up a lot of young guys, and they brought the right guys in with them, and that's kind of what the Cubs have done. So, and where can people find you, man?
Right on the Let's Talk Sports Network. We got a show tomorrow night, the Let's Talk Sports Show, 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern. Tomorrow we will be talking football, our NL West division. So we'll be breaking those teams down and making our picks.
Well, we definitely appreciate when you get time to come in. Got to have you and Jacob do a confrontation next time you're here.
Always, anytime, brother. I appreciate it.
Man.
I'll see you guys later.
See you later on, man. Thanks. All right, coming up next, now that we had the Botkins energy, we're going to bring on his foe. Yes, I'm calling him his foe. He does the wrestling show with Denzel Snipes on Monday nights on Sideline Sports. So we're going to have a little ring going on here. We're gonna make him the heel.
Dude, you got to get some real energy on this place. That's why I'm over here. I mean, Bodkins, I couldn't understand a word he said.
What's going on?
I'm doing well. Awesome. I mean, I did 6, 8 runs a game. I don't know if I can trust anybody on the pitching staff, but still. Anyway, I'm expecting him to go, and now there's more.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
4 easy payments.
Yep. But 6.
So let's get into, what we have to finish up August. So the Cubs have Pittsburgh and Milwaukee. And with 3.5 games back, because the Brewers ended up winning today. Stupid Brewers. And,
That's what it is.
But listen, like I say every day, don't worry about the Brewers. Win 2 out of 3 every series. You're going to win the division.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Well, see, the thing about it is this was such an inconsistent first half in the first place. And it's like, so I'm not going to worry about the Brewers because if we wanted to go after them, we would have gotten them in the first half. If we get them, we're lucky. But as far as Pittsburgh, one of the issues that we need to remember is we've had some great 2 out of 3 wins, but some really bad teams, and we're barely surviving them. We have got to make sure to put a boot on the throat and just start crushing instead of all that. Instead of worrying about what we do with the big boys, because we got to beat the little ones first.
Listen, last time we played Pittsburgh, we swept them. They were in first place at the time.
Yeah.
We kind of brought the demise to the Pittsburgh organization.
We always do that.
What do they have to do to make sure that when they go to Pittsburgh, they take care of business?
Well, the issue about it is put the boot on the throat. I keep saying that. It's like or the stiletto, depending on which gender. But it's either way. But the big issue that I have to say with this is it's always a 4-3, a 6-4, a 5, 8-7. It's the 3-2, and it's like these are teams that you should be crushing 10-3 most of the time. Maybe once in a while a tough one. Like yesterday, the Braves won like 3-2 on somebody. That was one of the first ones we've seen. But those were what those powerhouse teams, they have those games once in a while. The Cubs are not really a powerhouse team right now. They're somebody that's building themselves up, and they're struggling at certain times with the pitching, but they're fun to watch.
Well, I mean, after Pittsburgh, you got Milwaukee. That's going to really kind of determine what September is going to be like. If you win 2 out of 3 versus Pittsburgh, and now you play Milwaukee, you can't get swept. If you win 1 or 2 out of that series, you have a fun September where you're fighting for the division. So what's going to happen with that series?
Well, for one thing, the Cubs should sweep the Pittsburgh. We should have swept the White Sox. Should have swept Kansas City. That's a 40-86 squad. Had no business with that in the first place, so they should sweep Pittsburgh. But as far as Milwaukee, just keep by itself. Hopefully, the pitching starts getting better, so they don't have because I don't want to get into a run scoring battle with them. Not especially a team in first place. You don't want to get into that shootout.
No, I agree completely. So over the next 6 games, they're 3.5 back now. What do you think? What do you think you got over the next 6 games?
With those, I want 5-1.
Okay.
I want 5-1 because I want to sweep Pittsburgh. As I said, there was 3 teams that we should have swept. Cubs should have swept them, and it's like what happens is like they start out decently with their pitching. They start out decently with pitching, and then they start to struggle. I'm
going to disagree with you. I'm going to disagree with you on the sweep theory, and the only reason I'm going to do this is because of sports betting. Even the worst teams in baseball win 50, 60, 70 games a year, right?
Yeah.
So that averages basically to 1 out of every 3 games. So if you can win 2 out of 3, you've basically done your job if you're the better team. Yes,
Well,
there are sweeps. There are sweeps that happen. Don't get me wrong, but to be a top team, it's not like the NFL where you're going to go 15-2 or 16-1. It doesn't happen in baseball. If you get 100 wins, you're a great team. That means you still had 62 losses. So basically, 2-1 every series is phenomenal.
this is
Yes,
true. This is
you know,
true, except one big issue. It was such an inconsistent first half. So now there's not much, especially when you're trying to get to a playoff, there's really not much choice. And they really can't lose a series now. That's the tough
no.
part, especially going into September.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, they put themselves behind the 8 ball for sure. But as long as they keep going 2 out of 3, they'll be fine. You just can't lose a series. And yes, it'd be nice to pull a sweep here or there. I agree with you. Detroit, Kansas City, the White Sox, they're bad teams. You got to get one sweep. I don't expect you to sweep them all, but pick one of the 3. They're all horrible teams.
I know, and I was just happy that that I'm trying to think that Kyle got his win because it had been for a month, but
Yes.
it'd been for a month. I was happy he got that, and I'm just going to say this because it ain't part of our topics. I'm saying this part. It's like I love Kyle. He's been my guy from the get go. He's been my guy from the get go. But I am ready for him to go, even if he gets hot for the rest of the time. I am, and it's because his flaw that he has does not improve with age. It's like that they get stolen based on him at will. He's not. He's about a step off the base, and he is throwing more pitches to set up the hitter. Before you get a couple of things, get the right one. Now he's throwing 4 and 5 at a time. And even if he gets a strikeout or whatever, he's not that 81 pitch guy for the complete game anymore. And which is good if you're doing what he's doing still. He's getting quality starts. But that can end very, very fast, and the Cubs don't need to be around when that happens.
No, I completely agree. So let's talk about what's happening outside of Wrigley. Our great executive producer, Mr. Denzel Snipes, brought up the Yankees losing 9 in a row, which is the first time it happened since 1982. I spoke about this a little bit on the Sports Exchange about an hour ago. What do you think the Yankees need to do?
Have a buddy of mine. I'm going to use the Cardinals thing. He's a Cardinals fan. I have a buddy of mine. I told him about this because he was talking about that the White Sox just got rid of Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams, and I said to him that he says he wanted to see the Cardinals blow it up, and I said there's a little bit of a difference. The White Sox have not won as many playoff games 125 years as the Astros have in 5. That tells you something with that. So and in the same boat, the Cardinals are usually in between 86 wins in the NLCS. So it's a little bit different. Now the same boat with the Yankees. I'm going to say this. I said it to him with the Cardinals. I'm going to say it with the Yankees. Does Cashman need to go after this? Absolutely. Now I'm going to give Cashman all the credit for 6 World Series and about 15 ALCSs. All the credit in the world for that, but you can't miss the playoff in New York. You can't go 9 in a row in New York. It's over. But you can go get a Jeter if you're going to say that thing. You can go get somebody, and it's still New York market. So won't ever be that far off. So I don't think a blow up is necessary.
Interesting. I like to see a lot of changes. So,
well, no, I think the whole thing you're talking about this. I understand this, man. As the fan, you want to see a lot of changes. Here's the deal, though. I do it with the Bears all the time, and I'm always right because the Bears fans drive me absolutely up the wall. As what I keep saying, just replace somebody properly and get to it. No one ever listens. And the thing is, that can happen in New York, and then they could go through their 1980s deal of never winning. I just want to see I'm just saying for the Yankees, I don't want to see them go through that. The thing is better. The MLB is better when the Yankees are good. I just don't want to see them struggle. So you just got to do it right.
So real quick, before we move on to the next topic, I want to bring up the Bears. Jonathan Taylor, do you make that trade? Do you find a way to get him?
Absolutely not, because Roshan will go right in there. plus the fact he came from Indiana, which is I'm just going to use this in a different boat that fans don't understand. He came from Indiana, which is a lower tax rate, going into Illinois, which would be a hell of a lot of a tax rate. He'd be there 1, maybe 2 years, and then they would lose all of their picks, whatever it took to get him in the first place. And Roshan will absolutely blow it up in Indy.
Okay, fair topic. Considering we're on the Cubs show, I figured we had to talk about the Bears for that. I wanted to hear your opinion. All right, let's move on to the Hot Cub Time Machine. Hack Wilson, phenomenal year. I mean, talk about that.
Hack. See, in this day and age, when you say the word hack, you're looking on Twitter and you're talking about somebody who's making an opinion. But, but it's like, back in those days, it was a baseball player. But the biggest thing is you got to realize 56 home runs in 1930 starting it to be in a power league. Remember, this is Babe Ruth. Just starting to be in a power league, and he still gets 190 RBIs. In this day and age, you get 190 RBIs, you have to have 120 homers in a season. And you're getting that.
The most ridiculous number, 190 RBIs.
I know, and I'm saying you'd have to have 120 considering everybody goes for the home run right now. Oh, but what thing I love the most, the 356 batting average. Yep. That's the point that I make about all of this with Babe Ruth and Shohei Ohtani. Is I'm not saying Shohei Ohtani ain't the best in baseball, because he sure is. You know what I'm saying? He is the best in baseball right now, but to say he's the greatest of all time, this is just a bunch of young kids trying to get rid of history. You got to be the best of all time. You need to have 6 370 averages and a 390 average along with it. And you got to be able to do that. And it's like to be the greatest of all time. I mean, Babe Ruth, that was his numbers along with the home runs. And then Barry Bonds had the 373 with the 73 homers. So you have to do those things. So, I mean, really, if we always just look at the home runs, we could just be Kyle Schwarber, who's 197 but 30 homers. Right.
And I mean, just think 190 RBIs. How many of your teammates have to be on base for that to happen?
Oh.
I mean, consistently.
Well, consistently, you got to remember they bunted more. Yeah. They bunted more in those days. They also choked up on the bat to get singles. So they were always – you rarely got one – in comparison to now, you rarely got 1, 2, 3 innings. Just because they choked up on the bat. They didn't try to power everything.
Just a completely different time and playing baseball the way it was meant to be played.
Oh, I know. And it's like – see, and the thing is, the one thing I do like about this baseball season now is that there's a lot of home runs. I mean, the Braves are just destroying home run averages, but they score in every which way. And they're stealing bases, which, I mean, and the Cubs, they're getting a little better at that thing itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. All right, let's go to our Cub or Dud. You shut Stroman down for the rest of the year, or do you have him come back?
Nope. He's a distraction now. It's the unfortunate part. He started out really so you got to realize the year before that he wasn't really that awesome. He has his moments where he's very dynamic. But then he started fast this year, and then he went down. And it's and he's not worth the extension that he wants. He doesn't keep a consistency. And we're already with a pitching staff that doesn't keep consistency. Everybody struggles at one time this year. We already know Steele's, but even Steele had a couple straight games when there was no he had 3 straight games where 2 of them were a no decision and 1 was a loss. So it's and he has 14. Was he at 14 wins or 16?
He is at, what is that? 14.
Yeah, but I'm saying even he did. And they even had that thing. It's no one on the Cubs has a true consistency this year. Steele's the hottest one right now, but who knows what happens in September? Who knows what gets hot next? But as far as people are thinking of Stroman because Smiley's horrible, but you can't do anything about that. And Stroman hasn't pitched in ages. We don't know how healthy he is, and he's a distraction. So let it be. Just let it be and see what happens from here. Go get somebody else. And again, if you lose Strowman, you lose go after some people, because I'm almost ready to. I'm going to miss Kyle, but I'm missing when he does finally go. But I'm ready for it to happen, just because of how things are starting to go now. It feels like a gradual slide.
I definitely hear you. So where can people find you?
Well, I was in a movie just recently that I just did a couple lines as a lawyer. And just to answer, I was one of the Shapiro lawyers there, Jay. And it's like, no, I played a lawyer. So I was a movie called Betrayal, which I'll put out my scene when it comes out. I'll bring it out here. We can put it on. Then and then I'm working on a couple movies. Then Sunday mornings, I'm going to be on The Professor and Pupil with Scott Morganroth. Mondays with is the Off the Top Rope with the Sniper the Pundit. Wednesday nights, the Sports Exchange and the Cubfidential. Thursday nights, Pundit. And then once it's necessary and needed, when I'm needed and off the bench, I will do a couple shows with Gauntlet.
Well, Jacob, it was another great show.
Yep.
We'll be back next week to do this again. Hopefully we'll have 5 more wins of the book and cut the lead down to about 2.5 to 1.5.
Well, September will mean something. Hopefully, see, we haven't been completely useless by September since the 90s, so that's a good thing. But it's just let's just hope that we can. I just want to start beating teams we need to beat.
Definitely. Well, it was a pleasure. But until next week, guys, this was Cubfidential. 3.5 games back, 2 out of 3 versus the Tigers, split with the White Sox. We'll see what happens next week against Pittsburgh and Milwaukee. Till then, be good.